Good evening. Tonight is April 30th. It's a meeting of the RSU Withdrawal Committee. First thing I want to do is approve all the minutes from all the meetings so we can post them on the website.
Okay, a motion to approve the December 18, 2014 minutes.
We can do them all together.
Oh, we can?
Yeah.
Motion approved.
Before you do that, can you correct the spelling?
Yes, I spelled your name incorrectly wrong. And,
Right. I was going to bring that up.
and there were a couple of other changes
Yeah.
that were sent, which is,
It's just a little grammar stuff.
exactly,
Yeah.
little things. Sorry, I tend to write and then type fast and not.
Just remember that the official meeting minutes in Raymond are the videotapes. So this is really just something to post out on the website for condensed versions.
And just for clarification, our April 16th meeting that we had that you guys rolled out the budget, the sound did not come off onto the TV. So tonight, what we're going to do is just touch on that again, that meeting, so people can hear it again. Because I know when we talked at the public hearing, we were talking about the numbers, but not really how we got to them. So if we can go over some of it again, just we're going to pick your brains there again, Marshall. That way we have it on video then.
So we have 5 sets of minutes. A motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion? You have all the changes, some of the
I have
grammar.
all the changes, so I'll make those.
Yeah, spelling. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay. So yeah, let's go back to the budget. And Marshall, I know you're pulling up your spreadsheet there.
Did you guys want this projected at all? 'Cause I think no.
No, we're fine. We're just going to talk about it. So the other day at the meeting, we talked about a range of between 9.2 and maybe $12 million. That's kind of the range if we were to separate and go on our own of the estimate of bringing Raymond having its own school board again and leaving the RSU and finding another place to send our kids. So Marshall, if you can just take that over.
Okay. The first thing I want to have everybody keep in mind is right now we have a floor budget of 8.4, 8.5 million going into 15, 16. So that would be that. Now to use a nice sports analogy, because I'm a Yankees fan.
You mean the first place Yankees? First place Yankees.
There's only 2 in this room, I think.
I tried to come up with the first baseline and the third baseline on the budget to see where the field is. And the first baseline I drew was to take the budget for 08-09 and increase that budget by the standard inflation rate as published by the government. And using that number, I came up with 9.46 million. So that, and I realize that's a very loose number, but that would be my first baseline. My third baseline was to take the 08-09 budget, integrate what I could out of the 14-15 budget, which is a bear because they have changed cost centers among other things. So you take that and you pull out what I would consider the bricks and mortar costs, because those, it's Jordan Small or it isn't. That's an easy one to do. And then you try to integrate back in a fair percentage on what the system-wide costs would be. Administration, special ed, transportation, so forth and so on. And using 3 different formulas. One is the 45 to 36 formula. One would be percentage of buildings. We have 2 out of 7 buildings, which gives us roughly 29% of that cost. And then the student population, which is roughly 20 to 80. Using a combination of those 3 numbers, I came up with 11.3 million. So that's my third baseline. So we're somewhere in there. My feeling is we're looking at a triple rather than a single for costs. It would be very difficult for us to stay in the $9.5 million range and bring back the special ed administration, the school administration. I'm not sure where we stand with superintendent licenses and so forth and so on. It's hard to get 2/3 of a person, or I think it's 3/5 is the phrase that they use now. and hard to get those people to commit for long term, so that's where we are. And the union contract would need to be renegotiated. We would need a business department or a business manager, at least. They have the advantage of Don Davis over there and things like that. So that's where I was, 9.5 to 11.3. My feeling is it's closer to 11.3 without coming up with some real hard numbers.
You're also not looking at school buses. You're not looking at.
Well, I am looking at that as a lump sum system-wide number.
Okay,
Right.
so like having to get tractors to mow the fields, plowing the parking lot. You know,
Right.
that's all charged back to the school now. So that would be a cost that would be
Right.
picked up here.
With the initial though, we'd get some share of the total. Is that how it would start?
You would get a share, like the school buses.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would get
Is that how we would
something
start?
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you know,
Not
who knows
enough.
what you would get back?
Yeah, not
Probably not the new ones, would be my guess.
Mike, just for clarification, because you came in a little bit late, the April 16th meeting that we had,
Mhm.
the sound did not come out. So people did not hear what happened when we were
Oh, no
explaining the
kidding.
budget.
Okay.
Yes. So what we're doing is we're trying to go
Doing the whole
over
thing again,
it
okay.
quick, yeah, that way where people can hear it and still understand the meeting from Tuesday
Okay.
night. So.
Thanks for letting me know that.
There was one other factor that was essentially looking at first year cost.
Right.
What is not in that number is the known infrastructure cost that is coming down the road, that being
To
the
redo the
roof,
school.
that being
The boiler.
heating
Furnace.
plant, that being things like that. So there's, that's probably a $2 million ticket item that's gonna roll in at some point. And if that, I mean, yes, we could, if we separated, yes, we could bond that, but then you're incurring a cost out over a 10-year term, as opposed to if we did not, then it becomes part of the RSU cost, which then falls down under the cost sharing and things like that. So the hit is much more manageable at that level.
When I ran the numbers to get to the higher of the two numbers, I considered a annual increase that took out 58,000 in staff per year, on the assumption that the union contract calls for, I believe, 18 to 1 on their student to staff ratio. I'm pretty sure it's 18 to 1. And since we've lost 110 students, I took out one a year. What I did not add in was a bus, because I think that we have usually built in a bus a year.
Typically, we've, in the old days, we had a bus.
bus
So,
a year.
so that would wash out that 58,000.
Because the state would pick up the cost of one bus
Right.
usually.
Year
But
later,
of course,
right?
that's 1 year delayed,
Right.
and the fact of the matter is you don't fully recognize the full value of it because it gets bundled into the state subsidy, which
It's less
means
than
that 55,000 really doesn't go back to you at 55,000, it goes back to you at something less than the 55,000, so you still have costs that are tied there.
When you look at the state subsidy for Raymond, it's pretty small.
Yeah.
Raymond's picking up 95% of the cost of this. So. Other
I mean,
questions?
there was one other, just as another way to verify what we were doing, because there was so many variables that were floating around, we did a check that said, okay, if we take the budget, look at it from the standpoint of where our costs, and the fact that about 72% of the overall cost is in salaries, fringe benefits, and things of that nature, and we escalated that up, it still brought us up into that 10, 11 range. So, I mean, we had 3 or 4 different shots that we looked at it, and all of them were bringing us up into that range.
The other thing I want to mention here, sorry, is Katrina brought up a good comment last night, and that was the cost of keeping up the bricks and mortar. And when you take Jordan Small School, number of students, cost per student, or income per student, it's getting pretty close to the break-even point over there to keep that school open.
I'll ask Jennifer, is there discussion about consolidating these two schools somehow?
There isn't, at this point. I just joined the facilities committee, so we
Okay.
are just restarting discussions. I think there's certainly recognition that at 50% capacity, something should be done, like maybe renting a wing, as you guys were talking earlier, that sort of thing. But they also recognize that the towns to date have really not wanted that to happen. So that's as far as we are. It's just saying it needs to be addressed at some point. We need to think of solutions potentially. But I think we heard. I know I was one of the community members that wasn't in favor of a K-8 school
Right.
when that was discussed, so.
I mean, Jordan Small used to be a K-8 school
Mm-hmm.
back in the 80s,
Early.
so, early. So,
Well, Benny even went there, but I think this is the time now that the school board needs to seriously crack down and say, okay, we've got overcrowding, we've got school issues in Wyndham, we've got open up here, and once again, be that school board, make those decisions and follow through and let the pieces fall where they may, just because they're the ones, the only way that people are gonna follow behind them is if they take the initiative. But
Are you talking about redistricting now, or?
yeah, but they're not willing, but you
Well,
have to when you
I don't-
have.
I
Yeah,
don't-
but the
I don't
problem with
like- I
redistricting,
don't
there's
like the
nowhere
word
to,
Right.
I do not like the
Right.
word redistricting.
Yeah.
there's nowhere to
You
draw the
have
line.
one
It's that-
district, it is the RSU 14. It is not redistricting, it is utilization of
Right.
space.
It is.
There's a big difference, and there's every difference in the world between using the word redistricting and utilization.
right.
It is a proper utilization of space, it is not redistricting.
I think
Just a
the
bad
struggle, so forget the
You
word,
hit-
but
you hit
the
a-
concept.
Yes.
You hit a sensitive spot.
The struggle is where do you draw the line from a busing perspective? So there's not enough population at the White Plains Road to make much of a difference at all. And so then, how close do you go to 115 when you're so close to the Wyndham schools? So I think that's the struggle more than anything.
In terms of population in the close proximity of Raymond, I believe we heard testimony from a resident in which, if you just look at the Colonial Pipeline, which is right over the Raymond line, and there's 100 houses in there, and utilize that population to fill the Raymond schools versus the Wyndham schools, which is already overcrowded. It's not a big drastic, I will call it a line in the sand.
I don't think
but-
there's a lot of kids in that development.
They've studied the numbers,
Yeah.
and it apparently doesn't make enough of a difference. There are
But
some of those-
what I'm saying is, I don't think you have to go all the way to Waits Bridge Road to get your numbers.
I
'Cause
think
you
they,
got the
I
narrow
actually
road,
think
you
they
got
did a
the-
census, and you had to go all the way to 115
Yeah.
to actually draw enough people.
115.
Yeah. Yeah.
But something has to be done because once again,
Yeah.
and literally I got booed in Wyndham when I brought this up and they said, we're not Wyndham, we're not Raymond, we're RSU 14. So the board needs to take that stand and do something because right now, I know I'm saying this, I think you need to put it back on camera again that says how much does this affect tax dollars? Say we go with the 12 million, I'd rather go with a high number and say how much is that on each taxpayer's dollars right now because that is, ouch, that hurts.
I just gonna throw it out there, but it might be difficult for, I would imagine, not to speak for the board, but that it would be difficult to have a lot of those conversations while we are in the middle of a withdrawal process. I mean, the board doesn't wanna start pushing whatever you're gonna call it when they don't even know if
Right.
And
what,
I don't think
what
they
the
wi- no,
future is
they
going to
won't
be.
either.
So I'm just saying,
Kind
I'm
of in
just
limbo, yeah.
thinking about that. I think some of these things might be a bit in limbo. I don't know.
I think we're gonna know in another month what's gonna happen and,
Yeah.
just because of the vote.
So we talked about a $1.10 increase on the mill rate for every million.
Yes.
So
So if we go from 8.5 to 12,
you're looking at 3.5 times 1.1,
right,
right?
right. And on the proverbial $250,000 house, that's about $800, I think.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a 25% increase in tax.
And frankly, Joe, that may very well be within somebody's tolerance level.
A raise of
Some people.
$800 on
Some
a
people.
$250.
Some people, yes.
Some people. In defense of that, people move into communities because of the school system.
Sure.
I've done it twice with my kids. And
Yeah.
And you're willing to pay that extra freight.
Do you know,
It
You know,
makes a
one
difference in
thing
school
we
system.
haven't talked about when we're talking about money,
And you're not sure this well.
is
This
what,
must be bare bones.
we haven't talked about curriculum at all.
Right.
How, what changes are gonna be as a result, whether it's 9.2 or 11.5, what changes are gonna take place in curriculum that are gonna make it worthwhile to increase taxes on a $250,000 house by 25%?
well,
I
and
mean,
that's
that's-
what you had said, what are we getting for our money? is what it is.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
I don't know that we can do that, because I think it's something that the school board would do. I mean, we would have to do the withdrawal agreement, and I think that's where the school board would say, here's the money, this is what we do with it, as far as putting the curriculums and stuff like that.
The
and
school
I-
board that's formed after.
After-
No,
Afterwards,
They
yeah.
can't do it now, yeah.
No, exactly.
I don't see the curriculum changing a whole lot. I mean, the curriculum, you have a basic curriculum anyway.
Well, I know
The
that, but
question is whether you're gonna have
It's the
more
specials.
music,
It's the
more
specials,
gym,
yeah.
more Spanish,
More, yeah,
more
or less.
math,
Exactly.
more, you know, whatever you're
Or
gonna,
less.
And that
whatever it
may-
is,
or-
Joe, the only, that's the
worse
only
quality.
question I'm
Or let's
asking.
call it.
Is if we're gonna talk about an increase, a substantial increase in property taxes. Look, I'm all for education. My kid graduates with her MBA next week. The reality is, I just wanna make sure that if we're gonna talk about spending 25% more in taxes, how can we be sure, how can we be assured that it's gonna make a difference?
We can't.
Well,
Can't.
well,
Can't.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, and
If
that's,
you,
that's
if
the
you look at it
frustrating.
from the standpoint of the assumptions that were, you know, that we took in looking at numbers, there was no change in services, so you're not looking at increasing any services. In fact, if you look at it from a practical standpoint and the population were to decrease, you're probably going to have to cut services, not
Raise,
increase
yeah.
services.
Right.
I mean, in theory, you would, in theory, you know, if you take one of the comments from the other night was, you know, they wish that there was more on the math side. I would think you would have a better probability to have more opportunity there in a larger environment than in a smaller environment. Because if you're looking at expanding systems, you know, for a population that is at, you know, a quarter of the size of the RSU 14, then the probability of it happening is much less than finding the ability to somehow work with those people in a larger population.
I mean, one of the things I am concerned about is the speculation on demographics and how many more kids are gonna be in the system. I mean, it's going down. It's almost flat looking out 8 years from now, if I remember, it goes 599 to 596. And I truly do not trust those numbers at 596. I'm thinking it's going down into the 500 range, and then what? Then it's gonna be a very expensive school system for 500 kids.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I agree with you on that, Joe, because when we looked many years ago
Yeah.
at the middle school study,
Time ago, yeah.
that was a long
That was a
time
long
ago.
time ago.
I didn't have as much gray hair then. The projections were all
Right,
Yeah.
700,
way.
800
As
kids.
soon as we committed to and win it, it started on the decline. If we're looking at it staying level,
Yeah.
and there's nothing that tells me that it's not gonna decline again, you know, are we setting ourselves up for false expectations?
Yeah.
I also was very reassured hearing from the principal, 2 nights ago, right, because I mean, I was, you know, when I heard from people in this group about cutting back on some of the curriculum, whether Spanish and band, and he had a very reasonable explanation, which is, well, we have, you know, however many fewer kids than we did 5 years ago, which makes all the sense in the world that you'd only need a half a person versus a whole person or whatever. I mean, and that makes sense, and I don't have any reason not to trust his assertions that everything has, if anything, some of the programs have improved, he said, or they've changed because the times change. You know, he was talking about how there was some, you know, it was not computer, wasn't the word, you know, some computer programming something that they did at Wyndham Middle School, and we didn't have it here, and so they realized that, hey, we should do it here too, you know.
I was pretty reassured by that, and I do take, I don't remember if it was him or somebody else who talked about this, but I believe it will be more difficult to get high-quality, part-time teachers when they have full-time opportunities elsewhere, where right now they have a full-time opportunity, and if we're hiring a part-time Spanish teacher, your pool is very different than somebody who's looking at, so that's, I'll leave that out there.
If you're gonna raise my taxes by 25%, I want that to go towards making our schools really, really good.
Really good.
So I would accept that. I would vote for that. If you wanna, but I'm not gonna, I don't want my taxes to raise by 25% to keep things the
It
same.
keeps things.
Exactly.
How
But
would
that's
you,
not what's
how
gonna
would you
happen,
make them
right?
really, really good?
25 would just get us to
Where you want
We're
to
still-
We're keeping us the same.
We
right.
hire, we recruit, we
mine
spend all of our money
Yeah,
on teacher
exactly.
salary, and we recruit the best of the best. If that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm gonna
But
put
you
my
can't
money
even recruit
towards.
because these guys already have
Right.
contracts and stuff like that, so it's really kinda like with Raymond, it'd still be status quo, but just not Wyndham in it is what it is, and I know some of the teachers that, one of their concerns as far as if we split is because what they're at on their, seniority level, they can boot somebody else out, or they can go to a Wyndham school if they get here and go on the seniority level. My biggest fear is right now, after hearing these numbers, is it's so hard to get word out in this town about things. It really is. And my biggest fear is people are still going to go and vote for this, thinking that it's going to be status quo as it was in 08, 09, and they're going to get a big tax bill on this. And that worries me. That really worries me. So I don't know. I mean, we got to do our best to get the word out as to what those numbers are, you know what I mean, and what it will do to your tax dollars. And it's pretty much going to be, I honestly think it's going to be the same thing as what it is that it currently is right now. It's not adding anything, even though our money is adding. But on the other hand is they're going to have this, I know what the school board's going to do. I was on it for 4 years. They're going to look and say, we cannot pay for a teacher with 13 kids in a classroom. And right now we can because it's combined between the two schools. Okay, we have 38 kids coming into the kindergartners. We're possibly looking at 4 classrooms. Let's look at, okay, let's put that, and I know before they had a policy of 18 kids in a classroom. Let's put that full 18 kids in a kindergarten class, and it's going to be cuts. And I don't think people are going to be expecting that, but when you are looking at that big budget, of that big thing, there are going to be teacher cuts, and there is, and ouch.
Well, this brings me to another question, which is, we still does this committee want to, or have the ability to use some of the money to get the word out about all of this stuff?
Deb Hutchinson suggested if we can put it on the ballot, I think it's too much to put on the ballot. A yes vote means you'll get A, B, C, D. A no ballot means boom, boom, boom. When I talked to Paula Gravel, the best thing you can do is keep it as simple as what you can. And we sent out the question, what was your question again? Do you want to?
Do you want the RSU Withdrawal Committee to continue?
And he wrote down a yes
Yes
means
or no,
we would
and-
go
and
forward.
the explanation.
No, and this is what they want to see. They don't want to go into a big explanation of going, oh my God, what does this mean? Am I reading into this? Keeping it really simple. But the good news is, if they want us to continue forward, and we do go forward, we still have a lot of public hearings that we can keep educating the public to say, look, guys, are you sure you want to go forward? This is what it's going to cost us. This is how bad. And to me, that's bad when you raise your tax dollars that much, and you're not getting those extra services. If it's gone for teachers, if it's gone for all this different stuff, great. And we may get a school board that can do that. We don't know.
Well, I guess my question is, can we do some educating right now in a very deliberate manner with some of this? I don't know whether it's glossy mailer at all.
I'm kind of waiting to see what, I'm curious to see
I
what,
don't know.
from now,
Costs
just what
nothing.
happens in June. And then from June, good news for you guys that don't know, because an email went out. I asked some questions of Paula Gravel, and so did Louise. The September deadline that we've been granted, we can keep getting extensions. Some guy has 2 years. They want to make sure that we are going to do it. We're going to do it right. We're going to know what we're doing. We're not going to rush into it, which is really good news on that. But do we want to drag this whole process out too? No. But I think maybe, and maybe I'm wrong, see what people say in June, that cost share may be different, the middle school may be different, and that may change a lot of people's minds.
I suppose we could always ask the question, do you wish to continue the withdrawal process, which may result in a 25% tax increase?
We can't, we already sent out the warrants.
Yeah, we did not ask it that way, 'cause we don't have a definite,
No, I'm kidding,
you know,
Joe.
but I think people will read the articles in the newspaper. I think people are educating themselves on this. Let's get away from the money for a minute. What does Raymond gain by separating them now?
I don't think much.
Well,
personally.
that's the question that's unanswerable.
Well,
Except that,
I mean,
we lose any control over the high school.
we never had control.
No, we have 3 members on the school board.
yeah.
And to that extent, we have whatever we have. It may not be a lot, but it's something. Once a kid leaves Raymond, that's it. We have lost any control or any influence. Call it influence instead of control. Any influence on what happens to him in high school. What do we gain? We gain this mythical local control, whatever that is. That means we can have our own school board, which can create whatever it creates, again unknown. So, as far as I'm concerned, there's no way of knowing what we gain.
I would say we almost have the best of both worlds, right? We have the benefits of consolidation financially and being able to access the services that the RSU can bring to the table. And yet, when you hear Randy talk, he does feel that he has some local control. Again, he brings budgets forward based on what the Raymond communities they think are needed. So we have a little bit of a hybrid model now. Some people will say, well, we're not truly consolidated if that's the, so it's
But
like you can't really have it both ways, but it's a nice combination.
We also have school choice.
And we
which
still have
is-
school choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these consolidated districts, once they became consolidated, said no more choice. That's it.
What's become obvious to me during this process is people talk about local control, and really by withdrawing from the RSU, the only local control you get is K through 8.
Right.
If anything, following that, you lose any control of post-secondary or high school
Right.
type of education, because you don't have the representation that you have now on that RSU board. So you lose all control of your high school, you gain control of K through 8.
Yeah, because when you think about when those kids go to high school and they get in trouble, let's say, it's not
Not our kids.
It's our kids never get in
Never.
trouble. But a Raymond kid being in Wyndham gets in trouble. Who makes that decision? It's Wyndham. It's not Raymond. So you have no local control over that. Right now, at least you have some Raymond representation on that school board that can help influence something, as Steve said. There is some influence. But if you just have a contract to that school,
Yeah, no.
that's all you got.
No,
It's a contract that they'll take the kids.
Does Raymond have a representative, does the Raymond have a representative on every subcommittee of the school system? Okay. So there's legal and there's facilities.
Yeah, finance actually has 2 of the 3 of us are on the finance committee. I'm on the facilities committee. I think of all the major ones, but yeah.
Okay.
And then we're all
So
spread.
we're fully represented in all those committees.
Yeah, I remember early on Louise said that we're never gonna be Raymond Wyndham High School or Wyndham Raymond High School. And I got to thinking, if we go to Poland, we're not gonna be Poland Raymond High School.
Yeah.
Or if we go to Gray, Raymond, the word Raymond's never gonna be thrown in there.
Yeah, you're never gonna be Gray, New Gloucester, Raymond.
Right.
Well, we're not
Right.
consolidated with them. We're consolidated with
Yeah,
Raymond.
well, this
Yeah.
is Raymond Elementary, right?
Right.
So I mean, on some level, it makes sense
Yeah.
to call a school where it's located.
Right. So,
No,
But-
to defend that statement that I made, it's because we joined them, we became one unit, and yet, at least in my eye, we never became one unit. That's where that came from.
but no matter which school you go to, it's not gonna change.
No, but it would be expected it wouldn't change, because suddenly we're going to different schools, as, in case you don't know, I heard, just this afternoon from Poland that they're willing to take any and all of our students.
Oh,
Really?
So there's one more to look at.
So we become Poland Raymond High School.
No,
No.
But they're just Poland, they're not
Well,
the
they're-
names of the
They're
other
RSU
towns.
They're an
16.
RSU.
They're Poland
RSU
Regional,
16.
it's
Yeah.
Poland Regional
It's-
High School,
It's
I think.
Poland,
Right.
The
Mechanic
name of the
Falls,
town where the
Minot.
school is located, it's not the name of the district. I
Right.
mean,
Right,
no, it's
you
not
know,
RSU.
you look at how many,
And there actually is a name to this. I mean, it's Bruce M. Whittier is actually the name of the school.
I thought, is that
Mid,
high
I mean,
school
middle
or
school, maybe the high school's not, but
Right.
the middle school is called Bruce M. Whittier
Right.
Middle School.
but this goes right back to, this is a grown-up problem, this is not a kid
Yeah.
problem, this is us holding our grudges and our standards, this has nothing to do with them. But if we're gonna say it's not in our best interest to withdraw from the RSU, then we need to say, this is what we're gonna do to protect our families from saying, we're gonna close down a school, or we're gonna build a middle school that not everybody wants built, or how, if we're gonna make a recommendation one way or the other, we need to also back that with how we're going to take care of our students, because we're throwing numbers around like crazy, but we're not talking about what we're gonna do.
Well, remember, if they want to close one of the schools, it becomes a Raymond vote, whether or not to close it. And if we decide as the town of Raymond, we don't want them to close it,
You have to pay for
we
it.
have to pay for it.
Right.
So that becomes an expense on us. Even though it's a consolidation,
Mhm.
it's still a big expense that comes
Right.
back, yeah.
but if we
But,
were
but the
consolidated.
same thing is true on their
If
end.
we weren't
If they
consolidated, it would be
eventually
our
build a
cost
middle
there, too.
school, it's on them.
Right.
But we'd have a
Yeah.
chance of renting it out or whatever.
What
Well,
else are we
right,
missing
but-
here? What else are we missing?
I think what Ann said is one of the biggest things that we're missing, which is, so let's say we don't withdraw, what, and again, like, do we need some other, I hate to add another layer of process, but, you know, I think somebody suggested at one point, is there a steering committee that's made up of somebody that is kind of keeping Raymond's best interest in mind, in addition to the school board members? I don't know, but.
There was a suggestion that the selectmen meet more often with the school
Okay,
committee.
so,
Yeah.
so that's,
That's
that might
Which
be-
I think that's easy
Yeah.
enough to do.
That's easy enough to do.
I think that's a good idea. I forget who sent an email around this morning, was it yesterday, that said, why don't we try and strengthen what we have? Knowing that,
Mhm.
you know, we've looked at these issues, why don't we try and strengthen this RSU process even more?
Is that Dave's email?
Was that who it was?
Yes, it
Was
was.
it? It might have been Dave Cowens, who sent that around this morning.
Well, we have a cemetery committee, we have various committees in town. Could we not create an education committee that would mostly be involved with local issues in Raymond, but then deal with the school board, or the members of, and the school board members could either be a part of it, or could meet with such a committee, and would then,
What authority would they have though?
they
No,
wouldn't have,
no
they-
advisory.
well,
Be
that's the
advisory.
question, what authority would they have? They wouldn't be,
Right.
have authority, they'd be representative,
A voice.
they'd be a voice, they'd be somebody who cares about the schools.
And they can go to the
Who
school
attends,
board.
Who attends
actually attends
meetings,
school
yeah.
board meetings.
So, cause what started this? This all started because of a rumor flying around about a middle school, right?
I don't know
Wasn't a
that it was a
rumor.
rumor.
Wasn't a rumor.
It was actually,
Factual or not, it started because of the
Right.
talk of a new middle school.
right,
And
That's
then
what
the
started
percent-
this.
yeah, and
So clearly, that's what got people saying, whoa, you can't do this.
Right.
So we've not made any progress towards making sure that that doesn't happen, short of us going, we're gonna pull out if you do that.
Yes, it
Well, we
did,
did.
yeah,
That's
that's what
last
that
year.
vote was, yes.
That vote, which happened after we said,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
oh, we're out of here if you do that.
Right.
So we haven't made any progress towards making sure that 3 years from now, when it's time for new.
Exactly.
Except that, Anna, the process is always there to attend board meetings and get engaged. And, you know, we've only seen it from this community since I've been on the board after the fact.
Since people got angry.
After the fact. And
No.
that's well, since I've been on
I
the
go to
board.
these meetings and I swear to God, you guys look at me like, oh my God, what is she here to, bitch?
I've only
Gripe
seen you at
about?
one meeting since
I-
I've been on the board, so again.
Yeah, well,
you have the sense to
I'm
go.
talking about-
Sorry. And you know, and I think,
Cut that down, man.
I'm sorry, I
It's
so
gonna be
did
fine.
not.
But Teresa,
Can we
I've only
start
seen you
again?
at one
Can
board
we start
meeting
again?
since I've been there, and that's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. So, since
And-
I've been,
and I mean,
nobody's.
from, but that's gonna be that big blurb, censor across of that. And I think because of sending the letters, and you know, there's always been a protocol that you send it, like for Rolf being the board chair, I send it to the board chair if you have something and he disperses it. Same thing with the board chair, the selectmen. I was sending letters to the board chair of the school board and none of them got passed down. And I think going to these meetings and saying, wait a second, can you guys have another avenue? And I think that's the frustrating part is it took quite a few emails and letters. I mean, you can't tell me you guys have not seen the articles in the newspaper. And it came up to a June 30th vote with you guys to keep it status quo for the cost sharing, but it came to a threat of saying, okay, I'm done. And it took this to push the school board, I think, over the edge. And I know in the papers, it says, no, you guys were going to do it and you're going to look at it. And I honestly, my personal belief is I believe something else. But I'm so afraid of that too. I'm afraid that something's going to happen again in another 3 years because it's really a big fish, small fish syndrome. It really is. And these were two huge things, the cost sharing and that school. But that's not it because we have a big issue and we've got two schools that are half capacity and you guys are, and not you guys, Wyndham is over capacity and we're not utilizing and people are paying high taxes. So why does it take the threat and having to actually all of us sit here to do this, get to this point? And once again, how many meetings? We invited Katrina to our meetings. We invited Katrina to our revitalization committee meetings. We invited the school board members to come up here to talk to us. I think there's a lot of communication and it still came down to having to do that petition, and filing that.
Hopefully both sides have learned through this process. I feel like they have. I mean, I have certainly, I'm new, but I've learned a lot from this process.
But there needs to be continuity on that school committee, which there hasn't been.
Right.
There's been a lot of turnover from Raymond representatives on that committee. I think,
Jen, now you have to be there for
No
life.
wonder.
I think Jerry Keene Dreyer
I
is
can
the
make it
only one
here.
who's been on there for more than one term.
Yes.
So, I think, and I also feel that when Wyndham gets to that point in that middle school, where those kids are sitting on top of each other, and they start talking portable classrooms and all that, there's gonna be a different look as to sending kids to Raymond. Just my suggestion. Sometimes you have to push to that breaking point before people go, you know what, I don't want my kids in a portable classroom. So.
It might take time. We've got two additional Wyndham kids that want to come into our school maybe this year.
Yeah.
It's like the bus.
More and more
It's
each
like
year.
the bus,
Hopefully
more
it'll
people
come
are starting to
over.
riot, 1 or 2 more people at a time.
Hey, just,
We're
it just takes a few, and the word will spread.
Is this like reason versus?
Joe? What would be the possibility of writing something up to go in the newspaper, not expecting the newspapers to send a writer out here to write an article? Why couldn't we possibly entertain the idea of putting something in on our own to try and explain it before people vote?
We're gonna need to, information is big.
Yeah, I mean, and I almost agree with Caitlin that a mailer would be important.
Not the
It's
robocalls,
close.
Joe.
It's close.
Not the what?
Not the
Not a phone
robocalls.
No.
They just cost nothing.
I
Yeah, but
know.
they're so annoying.
Yeah.
I know.
No,
Especially
but
election
Click.
time.
I think an informational mailing.
Right, I agree.
We agree that, everybody here agrees that separating from the RSU is not a good idea. And I'm making that presumption, all right? I don't know how people really feel. Some of you may feel it's a
Straw
good
poll?
idea.
Yeah.
I personally don't, so
I
I'm
think
going
that's
on my own
yeah.
opinion.
You've been consistent.
And you write an article and go, here's where we're at. This is what it's gonna cost you, the impact on your tax dollars. What do you gain for it? What are the issues?
Yeah.
And try and fit that all in a letter and mail it out.
The sad thing is we just missed like the tax bill thing, and that's what some other towns did, is they put mailings in their tax bills. And
Well,
because everybody has to open that, and they go, whoa, what's this too?
I think you'd wanna do it in early June, so it's fresh in their mind. when
Yeah.
they go to the
Well,
poll.
but I mean,
By
but
the end of May.
that's how they
Might not be
they
ready
updated it
to
all
venture.
along, two different things.
And then,
It's not gonna, we could do 2 mailers. It won't cost very much.
no, it's
Well,
not.
yeah, and I agree with the mailer. If we go to the newspaper, they're gonna print what they want, not what we want,
Right.
so.
No,
We
you
need to
can
make it
do
fit
an op-ed
op-eds.
piece,
It could be a side-by-side kind of thing.
but,
It's
seen
gotta
it for
have a
everybody.
super masthead so people don't immediately put it in the trash can.
Jen Moore says.
Yeah.
People
As
really
long
like
as
your
they, as long as it
presentation.
says Jim Moore says, everyone will open
That's
it,
it.
really.
People did like your presentation, so thank you for that, yeah.
Yeah.
They said it helped answer questions.
And we need to get it on the website, by the way. So
Is
where are
this
we
the
going?
PowerPoint presentation you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That would have been very helpful,
yeah.
Visually.
because there were a lot of
Yeah.
concepts,
Joe's very
ideas, and
visual, you
numbers
didn't see
running
that?
that
Try and work
people
bright
need to see
colors so
static,
people would see me.
you know, either on paper or on the screen, and
Couldn't predict it, yeah.
so I think that's important to get
Yeah.
out as well.
But what do people think of the mailer idea? We do have $25,000 to pay for it.
So how many households are there in Raymond?
It's like 3,000.
That's a question I asked today, or yesterday of Don, is roughly 2,200.
Yeah, it would cost like
Big
$1,300.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
cost about that, and you can do something pretty nice.
And that 1,300 is well spent, because my concern is people, you can't force people to read it or watch the stuff, but I mean, at least to say that we did everything we could to get the word out to
I'm
people.
not thinking a single space 3-page letter. I'm thinking,
One
you know,
page.
Very
big
similar.
print,
Well,
yeah.
Glossy?
Yeah.
Just volunteer
Like,
to
can
do
we add a
that?
flashing light?
He just volunteered to do up the whole newsletter
No,
for us.
we could, yes, but we can also, I mean, we can
Pink
contract
papers.
with we can do it for under $1,500.
Oh, yeah.
Contract with the mailhouse to get
No, I'm
it.
saying, you know how Joe says, okay, Caitlin, why don't you send out the emails and
Oh, you
everything
know,
else?
Joe's gonna do this one, but.
I am, huh?
And we can
Nice.
get I'm assuming get the list from the town, since this is informational
You
purposes.
could just, you don't even need a list, just do a resident.
Resident, it'll just go.
Yeah.
Well, but you know what, well, yeah, because you.
I usually look at those white residents and throw them
Yeah, and
away.
they get tossed.
Well, you got the voting list anyways, you just go off that.
Get
We
the
can do
town.
the tax list.
Well, the tax
Yeah.
list, you want the
Has
voting list, you want the
non-residents.
tax
Yeah,
list.
You want the
voting list
non-residents.
is probably
You want
better.
everybody.
Oh, sure you do.
So,
Yeah.
you can go with the tax.
That's
Depends,
why
this
you
depends
just
which
do
way
it.
you want the vote to go.
It's cheaper
I
to
mean,
do
I
a
don't
general
think,
mailing.
I don't think the
Pay for
town will
school.
charge us
Right,
for it.
exactly. They'll vote
Yes,
once.
they will.
For the tax list, to do the mailer off the tax list.
You can't, not for the list, but for the
According to
mailing,
Kurt
you will.
LaBelle, according to Kurt LaBelle, the 2,579 properties classified as single-family mobile homes for 2 units in Raymond.
Did he just send that to you?
I asked the question for another
Oh.
reason, because I had some ammo for tonight.
I was gonna say, wow, that was quick, they just emailed that back.
He's so fast.
Yeah.
Does he make cookies too?
I
know
contributed
when
some
he eats.
cookies, you know.
Yeah.
So, are we all on the same page?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the question.
Yes.
What
Gotta get
page
the
do you
word
want?
out.
Yes.
Mailer.
Well,
Mailer? Yeah, I think
a mailer,
Information.
are we
To
on the same
support-
page in saying that it doesn't make sense to withdraw?
I don't think we should present it that way. I think
Okay,
we give
how
them the
would you
facts.
present it?
Give them
Just-
the facts
Facts.
of what we have found. so
Put out
far.
what we found and leave it at that, because
There's
look what was said here tonight. I mean, some people are willing to pay that, but people need to know what they are going to pay.
Well,
And higher numbers to me are okay putting out there, just so people know this is the worst case scenario.
But does everybody feel comfortable the facts are your taxes could go up 25% for no discernible change?
Right?
I mean, is that?
Did you,
that's
did you understand what I said the other night?
You were wrong, by the way.
Terrible opinion.
Well, how's that wrong?
Right? I mean,
Well, when
I'm
you stood
comfortable
up,
if don't take a
because when you
position
said about
that
getting
is-
local control
Yeah.
back, you said, well, and you said, as far as local control is, we're only gonna be voting on a ballot anyways. And I looked at Joe and I said, no, we would actually go back to town meetings if we chose to, where people would have an input.
No, you still have to go to ballot to
Yeah, you
vote
still
on
do it on
Right.
ballot.
Well, but people still beforehand, you can have a meeting on it.
But the
Yeah.
the mailing
Yeah,
is the one
you
that
will.
counts, right?
Right, you would have
mean,
the
the,
informational meeting like you
Yeah.
do now, and then you have the ballot vote, a
So
written
we wouldn't
ballot.
have a town meeting like we used to.
No, it's an
You could have an informational one. I
budget
think
meeting.
some towns actually vote at it,
Yeah.
but the real one is at the polls.
When they actually put it on.
Yeah.
So I
And that's,
apologize.
I'm watching my wife on TV, Auburn, and I'll tell you, they're getting hammered every year. Because the tax groups and you just, in the old days, everybody showed up, all the educators showed up and they just took
I
over the
think it was
meeting.
2 years ago, the vote was
Yeah.
whether or not to continue having written ballot in the school
Right.
budget.
They do that
And
every
it
3
Oh, I
failed
remember that, yeah.
miserably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So sometimes you vote 2 times, but the one that counts is the one in the ballot
Right.
box, which is the one, you know,
Okay, I apologize,
people,
you're right.
no, that's all right.
You know,
I kept thinking,
I'm
yeah,
used to
go
it.
back
I'm
to
used
that.
to it.
we
Marcia.
were talking before about the mailer and putting in the facts. I don't know what facts we have.
It's all.
Because there are some,
Yeah.
there are some
It is.
We have some.
that we, yeah, I know, I mean, I appreciate the work that was done on the financial business. that seems to me to be at least within a reasonable range of reality.
And
But
Steve,
the rest of it, like, people had concerns the other night. Some woman was talking about her kid riding the bus for a long time.
That doesn't change.
No, I understand that, Joe. But those kinds of concerns, those individual kinds of, the halftime art teacher, the halftime Spanish teacher, those kinds of concerns, we can't address.
Right.
We don't know. So that's what I'm asking is when we say we're gonna put together a mailer, I'm all for that. I just wanna know what's gonna go in it.
It would mostly be the financial stuff.
That's the only thing we seem to know.
And you could put the basic, the 9.5, as we're talking baseline, you know, as giving them at least, it's not gonna be 8.2,
well,
8.4.
our baseline now is 8.4.
No, I mean, separating would be, baseline would be 9.5 if we were standalone.
Right.
Yes, so that would be a fact.
That's your lower
What
range.
we are paying now, and what we will pay if we stand alone,
Which
baseline.
leaves the status quo.
Right.
That
services
method
that
was
we can-
just using the inflation rate though, and
Right.
that's worrisome only because we've added in, Main State retirement and charter school pay, you know, there's some new costs.
That-
Oh,
that
that
add
was
up.
a
That's
real
why,
low ball.
that's
I
why
did it, I know
we're
that.
thinking
Yeah.
it's closer to 12.
Right, that's why I'm saying that lower number might be a little.
Yeah,
No, I'm just, like, for instance, like, we are currently paying this, we separate, it will be a minimum,
Right.
a very minimum of this, highest to
And
this.
potentially that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Well,
and
I
that's
think
getting
the,
it right.
the other thing you want, I think the other thing that would be important to put in there, put somewhat of a starting point. Initially, there was concerns of X, Y, Z, that being middle school, that being the cost sharing, and that being local control.
Good.
This and this have now been addressed. We're now at this. Here, you know, and here's, if we separate, here's the answers to that. Costs go to here. What does local control do? It gives you a little bit more local control on K through 8. You have no control any longer on
9 through 12.
9 through 12.
This is what you get, this is what you lose.
Right, control for this,
You know,
but
so,
none
so
for
now
this.
they
You
say,
have
okay,
some
what we
now.
wanted to do was we wanted to have
Alright.
more local control, we have less. You
If
know, we
if
want-
I'm gonna do this, I need people to send me an email with what they think needs to go in there.
cut and paste.
I'm not gonna cut and paste. I will format it,
I'll send it in Spanish.
thank you, and I'll have my little Google dictionary with me to
I
translate.
do mine in Norwegian.
I mean, everybody thinks this is a good idea though, as far, and
will
we
Yes.
put, we
email
put
you
what
and
we
I can
know,
go on
I mean, or close to, you know, we're not gonna say, okay, yeah, it's gonna be more, or how much more, but I think they need to know that 12 million is,
We don't even know that. Could
you
be
know.
more.
What's the
It could be
timing
more.
that we
Could be
would,
more.
after the June vote or?
No,
No,
before.
we're trying to educate
Oh,
the
it's not
public.
really
So when they,
What days
Oh, what day, oh, we have a month.
June-
I'm
June
sorry,
9th,
June
right?
9th, ahead of
June
myself.
9th, so it should go out the,
Nope, June 9th
By
is
the end of
election
May.
day.
One other
well,
thing, Joe,
let's miss Memorial Day weekend.
when we talk about facts for the
Two-thirds town
mailer,
meeting, is that what we heard?
you can also talk about the projected enrollment.
right, enrollment's a big deal,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
I also think that we need to stick in there is if we, and because it's a fact, it really is, we take Raymond back, we have low enrollment, that means that there is a very high possibility of teachers being cut and services that we have and
Being reduced.
yeah, you have to.
Of course.
It's you have to, unless people want to pay for that. You know, I know for a fact in one classroom there was 13 in there. You know, and just because that was the numbers that started out, you know, at the beginning of this year. You know, and I think maybe there's 15 in there now.
I mean, when you look at
Well,
Deer
that's
Isle,
great for
Stonington,
the kids, but
yeah.
out on Deer Isle, they pay North Haven,
Yeah.
it's North Haven, they pay $145,000 a kid
yep.
to educate their kids,
Oh my God.
because they don't wanna,
Wow.
you know, consolidate with anyone.
I suggest that it drops either the first or the second, that Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I think right
week-
after Memorial
The week
Day.
before is Memorial Day,
Yeah.
you don't wanna do it on a Thursday or Friday or else of it.
So it would come from the RSU
Yeah.
14 Withdrawal Committee,
Yep.
right?
That's it.
Put that on the outside.
Yeah,
From
on
the
the,
RSU
on the
Kids,
envelope,
but they
yeah.
don't, they go somewhere else, they don't know unless the school.
Important tax information.
So you need
Yeah.
important tax information.
Yes.
Disclosure or anything?
I'll open them up.
Can't, like, well, we're not advocating for one, we're technically not advocating
We are
for one
putting,
voter.
like a PowerPoint presentation out there to people and just stating what we have come up with, what are possibilities, you know, pros and cons, the same thing. We're not leaning one way or the
So
other.
we're not saying vote yes, vote no.
No, exactly.
No,
we're
we
not-
can't
yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
No, we're not leaning one way, we're just trying to
But
put
we're
out
just
there
being
what we
different.
do know for a fact, our facts that we think.
So, suggestions on what you wanna see in this letter, email me.
Okay.
Yeah.
By when? Let's set a deadline for that.
I'm not gonna work on
By
this
7
until.
o'clock.
The Ides of March.
Next week, next week.
The Ides of
Yeah,
March.
I'll work on it next, no, I can't next week, it'll be the week after is when I'll work on it.
I won't be here the
2 months ago,
15th
right?
to the 22nd.
What?
That's right.
We're driving to
We're almost in
Mississippi.
May, yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, we're taking Ben's car down to him. And then we're gonna go over to Orlando for a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where's he going to school?
Oh, that's kinda weird.
He's actually in the Navy, Gulfport,
Oh,
Mississippi.
yeah, Gulfport,
Yeah.
okay.
So we're gonna drive down a car for him. It'll be a long
Cool.
drive.
It is hot here again.
It is, oh my god.
So, for my own edification, can I hear where each member is on this withdrawal? If anyone is willing to commit?
Sure.
I am personally not in favor of withdrawal.
When
How
we
many
started
are there?
out, the whole, I used to sub at the middle school, and I loved it over there. I thought, I had a great time, kids were great, the school was terrific, the faculty were, I was impressed with. I was all in favor of local control. Let's take control of our schools again. Having sat here and listened to what's gone on over the past several months, I've changed my mind. I'm with Joe. I think it's a bad idea.
I came into this very neutral, having no children in school systems and having just moved to Raymond, and a former resident of Wyndham, but like I said, having no idea. And after listening to everything, I am not in favor of withdrawing.
Did you go to
For my
Wyndham High
kids,
School?
I did not. I'm not from this area.
Okay.
Yeah. So I really came completely open-minded. I don't know anybody from Wyndham or Raymond, so.
You know
but
all
after
of us.
listening to everything.
Well, you met us.
I've met you now. But I think what's best for my children is staying with Wyndham.
Me, my recommendation would be to stay in there. My hope would be that we can create a better dialogue with the school board so that the concerns are heard, and especially in regards to making better use of the overall facilities.
Don't you think this process has helped going down that path?
I think it has, but it's like anything else. It can either die on the vine, or it can
Right.
go forward. And
Right, you gotta make sure it continues.
I think the town has to have some impetus behind keeping it going forward, and I think we're in a mode now where there's a receptive mode from the school board to hear these things, and it's in our interest and their interest to keep that going forward.
But we have to stay on it.
Yeah.
I think with the changes in the cost sharing formula and the changes in the infrastructure development formulas, I think now our kids are in what I would refer to as a safe harbor. We've got a good school system going. We have some control on the whole thing, and for those reasons, I would stay in it.
I believe our kids, our students will benefit most by retaining the RSU, both curriculum and extra activities. My goals or intent when I initially volunteered to be part of this committee was to address the costs, the funding formula in the capital improvement plan, and those in the public hearing vote satisfied my desire for the direction of this committee, and therefore I would vote to stay with the RSU.
I think I voted against, I wasn't really politically active at that time, but I think I voted against consolidation. And I still kind of am angry that it was forced on us. I like local control, and my signs say local control on them. But having said that, having seen this evidence, plus I think it's, as I guess you said, safe haven, whatever. It's a known. What we have is a known, and I think to go back to what we had is an unknown and even risky. And I think the responsible thing probably at this point is to stay with Wyndham. And as I think people have said, we saw, we were able to slam that meeting, and we figure out a way to stay in the game. I mean, it doesn't take 100 people to go to a school board meeting and take over. I mean, we just need to somehow figure out how to keep Raymond people involved. And I know, myself as well. I haven't gone to many meetings, so.
I am not in favor of withdrawing for all the reasons that have been stated.
I'm not either, and I'm open to any suggestions about how to either be more effective representing Raymond or willing to be on an advisory committee if that's the direction. I think that's the important thing, is making sure that we have a good forum going forward.
How do you feel?
I haven't changed my mind.
We started this ball rolling.
I have. 12 million scares me. It scares me that it takes away services of the kids. I'm not happy that it came to this point, that we had to push like this, but I'm not in favor of withdrawing. I know I'm shocking everybody here, because I've been sticking to it, but I don't want the kids.
But Teresa.
I don't want to hurt the kids, the services.
Right.
And it's about the kids.
And you never wanted to.
No, I didn't.
But it was your impetus that got us to this point, to explore things, to look at things, and figure out a better way. So that's on you.
And I got two things that I wanted. I got the cost sharing lowered, and I got the middle school, and that was huge. And honestly, I think that we're going to see our schools dwindle down. That we're going to be forced in the end to scramble if we withdraw. I really do. So I'm not in favor.
Louise?
I'm still, Rich seems to be the only one here. I just want what's good for Raymond. And I honestly think that if we decide not to withdraw, that we have to back up our 3 school board members, we have to give them information, we have to tell them what we want, and we have to back them up.
Good.
And
Well
I think us on this group is going to do it too.
Yeah.
I've been undecided for a long time. I'm back and forth every single meeting. In the meetings, I'm back and forth. So I'm a really solid way to go. But I think at this point, with getting ready to send my 4th kid into the schools next year, and having my first high schooler, so really having that first taste of what Wyndham is, I really like where we are. I don't like what it took to get us here.
And it's the fear still there that it's going to happen again.
Yeah, but fear was enough to motivate me to come and talk to you guys and send out some emails. So hopefully there's some others out there like that. But as of right now, I'm not in favor of dissolving the RSU. I said that so enthusiastically.
We really have to figure out a way to keep, as Louise is right, we've got to figure out a way to keep things cranked up. I made one suggestion about some kind of advisory committee. Okay, that's one possibility. I don't know what else we can do. I'm not that creative.
I really don't want to file any more petitions, to be quite honest.
Okay, so
Listserv to keep us all better informed.
And we're doing that.
And you know what? I think our representatives to the school board need to be more engaged with the community. I just think.
Okay.
Like Mike sends out the letters from the State House.
Yeah.
The school board people in Raymond should send out notices.
Every so often, sure.
Well, if I can piggyback on that, and when I told Joe, one of the things after Caitlin had brought this up at the last meeting about the listserv, and we're taking Mike's idea, I went and I talked to Dawn, and I said, how can we get this going? So what's going to happen is we're going to you sign up on the town website, and you can either get on it or get off of it. You put your email in, and you'll get an email like every we're trying to figure out whether 2 weeks or once a month.
That's awesome.
And every group can put it in their school board, can be putting stuff in there.
You know who does this is, Freiburg does this.
Oh, seriously?
And all the departments have some response, like the fire department does it, and the public works. I don't know what the response, but they periodically have to note.
Well, and in this
Stoneham
case,
did
if
it.
they don't get it in, then that's their loss as
Right.
far as not getting the word out. But Kevin and Lori are working on it now. They thought
That's awesome.
great. They thought they'd be able to get it up in the next week, and I'm thinking, boy, we snuck this in without even going to the select board. But we need to get the word out, and it's hard. And people don't always go to the Facebook page. And I brought up every point that you had said, Caitlin, that when people aren't getting on this, we've got to get something out. And Dawn called Kevin, and Kevin says he's been trying to do this for like the last 10 years. And so this is great. So they're going to run some test runs, and then they're going to get word out that we can get things out from the planning boards. We can get out things from what's going on. Mike, you tap into it, and you'll get on, and there'll be a link. It won't be a full 4-page letter. It'll be like, if you want to know about the school board, hit this link on this newsletter, which is great. So, when that gets out, we'll start getting word out to people to say, okay, this is what's going on, and that type of thing.
So I think right now where we're at is, well, I don't think we need another meeting before the vote. Send me your suggestions on what you want to see in this letter that we'll mail, and then I'll write something up. I'll disseminate it amongst everybody. They can make corrections, additions.
I just have one more question. Since we are almost unanimous on where we stand as to what approach we should take, I would like to raise one more time, does it make sense to put that stance on the mailer? Because the people in this room,
They didn't
not
ask
me.
it though the other night, which I was really surprised.
I was too, but people
But people may know where we're at.
People, they're watching it.
They're watching it now. I'm putting,
Yeah.
I'm putting it in my thing.
They just heard
Monday.
Yeah.
but how many people watch it?
I
don't know.
personally think we ought to take a stand
Actually, the older
and
people
say,
do,
I think
our
we-
recommendation is not to
Maybe at the
withdraw.
end, a
Because
little
because
blurb.
by the way, if we do decide to withdraw, if the town says to withdraw, we're gonna be working our butts off to come up with the best agreement we
Right.
can, and we'll be working to sell that, because that's what the town wants.
Well,
At that stage, which is why I think it is within our
Oh, yeah,
duty
our purview,
our purview to take a stand.
I'm afraid that if we, look, as far as I can tell, this mailer is gonna be pretty one-sided.
So you might as well
You know,
say it.
Yeah.
it's gonna be pretty one-sided. I don't want people to think that it's one-sided because we are biased in some way. I want them to see the facts. Let them
reasons
figure
why.
it out.
Yeah.
Well, and it still comes down to it's a town vote, it's not a vote of
Right.
4, so let
Right.
them come up with it. And I guess if they have questions, come back with us and we have to educate more or something.
Yeah, I mean, if people wanna know, this is what we came up with. It's up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want the information to be degraded in any.
Go through for the recommendation. in there?
Exactly.
I guess I would just argue that we are putting that recommendation because of the information
Yeah.
that we're putting.
I think
and-
if you put that recommendation in there, though, you run the risk of it sounding, of people looking at that and saying, oh, they're just trying to push me in their direction.
Right.
And we're spending
That's
that,
exact-
and we're
And I
spending that
think if
money
you-
based on a negative vote. I think
I
think our
think
job
if
is to
you
get
put
the
it out
facts
there
out.
as,
Yeah.
here are the facts, now it's up to you.
Semi-fact.
Okay, I would I'm just gonna push this one and then I'll drop it, but, I mean, no mailer about any vote ever has not stated a opinion. I just would leave that. I mean.
Yeah, but I've never done anything
mean,
because
that's-
everyone else did it, so.
No, but they do it because it works, because it's effective. Like, people don't say, here are the pros and cons of voting no on whatever.
But we're not giving them any pros.
So, I'm just
They don't
saying, the
appear to be
reason, I
any.
mean, because when people at one don't read a mailer, they were gonna read the headline, and then a very, very small percentage are going to read it, and a majority are gonna say, oh. And so what I want people to see is if we have a glossy, the very first thing they see is withdrawal, committee recommends X, and then when they toss it in the trash, at least they have seen
X.
that X.
It's facing up, and they see.
I mean, I mean, I will leave it at that, but that is how
How
mailers
does everybody
work.
feel about it?
and I'll stop talking.
I like the idea of putting in a recommendation, because why else are we here?
I was gonna say, we're a
I would think
committee, that's
that-
what we were here, is to find
Right.
out something. In a way, we found out something we all agree. If we all didn't, then maybe we would approach that in a different way, but we all seem to agree.
But some people still will pay for that extra, and some people still want
So
that.
that's their
Some
choice
will.
to
And
vote.
that's what we're voting, right?
Right, that's why we're voting.
Yeah, that's why they
If
voted.
we're doing this mailer,
Rob's
Can
kidding.
can we also throw in there the zero sort recycling info?
I like that.
The what?
Say that again?
The zero sort recycling info. We did that a number of years ago, and we've seen the whole recycling thing go tailing down. We recognize that we need to re-educate people on there. As long as we're doing a mailer, it's not gonna cost us any more having an extra page in there.
Page 2.
Well, I think that's a great idea. If we're sending them, everybody's gonna get paper, cause honestly, mine's either gonna go, you know, in the fire
You can
pit or in
recycle
the.
it.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
recycle it.
Exactly.
But I mean, you know, it's, we
If it's
talked,
glossy, it burns
we talked
pretty.
about that at the budget meet, you know, when we had the budget hearings and whatnot, is that was something that, you know, the town needs to redo, and if we're
Okay,
doing it.
just so you know, I'm not writing up the recycling one. but-
No, but it's, but it already exists someplace, it just
Oh,
needs to be
I know where it's
reprinted.
at.
Yeah, I think Don has it before.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I've worked with Rolf for 7 years, and I have really never disagreed with him, but I'm gonna stick it out there now. This is a single issue, this is a
Right.
withdrawal committee, it's one issue. I really don't think we should cloud it. Sorry. That's
I
why-
also
that's
think
why we have to pay for it.
If you're gonna put a recommendation in,
Meet
I
you in
would
the
say
parking
put
lot.
it at the bottom, not at the top of the
Give me
page.
10-minute head start.
Yeah.
Because
If you
people
put
won't
it-
read it. Once you see a recommendation, you stop reading.
That's right, so it's gonna be in the same print as the rest of the type and at the bottom.
I think we should let people make up their own mind. I really do. I think we should just put out there what we've come up with, and like on the PowerPoint presentation, and let them make up their mind. Because they didn't ask. They didn't ask. I was so surprised they didn't ask.
You know,
You know, as I think about it, now I have mixed feelings about it.
I'm not embarrassed to post my recommendation, and that being based on the education that I've received in this process.
What do you mean you're not embarrassed? Nobody's embarrassed.
No, but, you know, we've delved into this for months now, and we're the most highly educated in this topic in the town.
That's all right.
But I think being that, we should make our recommendation as being educated, you know, through the process.
When you think about town
Right.
meeting and the warrants, there's always a recommendation. The
Right.
selectmen recommend, budget
Right.
finance
Oh.
committee recommend.
That was a good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So-
recommendation.
Well, I'll change my opinion.
You know what?
You've convinced me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, let me write it up, and then
You
people
can
can
send us a
make
draft
comments.
and we can see it.
Yeah.
Alright, so can I ask who's in favor here of putting a recommendation? Who's not?
Why is it the right
The
side?
right, the right wing, the far right.
Actually, it's the far left.
Sit over here this
I'm sitting in
entire
one place.
time. Just now found my place.
Alright,
Well, I mean, you could put everybody's name and their email addresses and say, if you wanna know,
One
contact
more.
them.
Yeah.
Could do that, but that's
Yeah.
to take up a big piece of the geography.
well, I think it'd be important to name everybody who's on the committee.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you was gonna name everybody
that
that
feels
was.
comfortable having their name on it. If we make a recommendation,
These three
somebody
people.
else-
We can go with the
They said they didn't want you to know.
I wouldn't mind fielding questions from the public, but I think that you should know that we've done that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You, the
Yeah,
committee.
You can put my name on it.
We're almost done, Grace. You have something to add?
Yeah,
Go for it.
I have a question.
Alright.
What was just discussed in the last 2 or 3 minutes
Yeah,
took me to get here.
We're talking about a mailer.
Are you putting a recommendation on the mail or not?
That's what we're talking about
Yeah.
voting on now.
You aren't putting a recommendation on it?
Yes.
Because I was going to ask if you weren't going to put a recommendation on there. Wasn't that the charge of the committee?
That's what we're talking about,
You're talking to those
Yep.
three over there.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's just us
And-
you need to talk
and
to.
the question was because some of us feel,
Well,
So
I might have been the only one watching, but, you know.
we want people to
Yeah,
make
well,
up
I
their own
truly, I
mind.
couldn't tell if this was live or if it was a previous
Oh.
meeting. So that's one concern I had,
It was
but, you know,
10 to
after a
3
few
to
minutes
put a
it was.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, okay.
Did
Could
you
have
see
saved
the
myself
vote
the
of what
trouble.
everybody felt like too? I don't know if you felt.
That's when I was hearing the polling, it was like, good, they're finally gonna decide to put a recommendation on, because that was indeed the charge of the committee to do that, and so I would expect that that would be on whatever information's going out to the public. So, thank you.
Feel bad you drove all the way down here
I
just.
saw Caitlin's voting yes, that's my
see
vote.
that.
Do you
As long as
have
you're doing
anything-
it, I'm fine.
Anything else you wanna add?
Not if you're all about to wrap this up and
Well,
be done
no,
with
I
it.
mean,
We're open for
and
discussion.
it's public comment time right now.
Well, I wasn't able to be at the hearing the other night. I think some of the comments that I would have made did get said from what I got reported back to me. I'll wait to watch the full video, but I do believe it's in the best interest of the students to stay as an RSU. A lot of comments were made about the cost and things like that. My concern is for the students. I know what it takes to try to have an adequate program and have a variety of opportunities for our students. We're looking at proficiency-based diplomas. We can't be cutting corners at this point in time if we really want all of our kids to succeed. So that's my little piece.
And with
Thank
that
you.
cost, that's what
Thank
we're
you.
saying, that it's so high.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Chris.
time.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks.
coming.
Do we have anything else to discuss as a committee? So I guess we'll wait for the vote, and then we'll probably have a meeting after the vote to decide.
One way or
where
the
we-
other.
One way or the other. We need to then just figure out where we're going from there.
Who do we answer to?
Paula. Alright, this is what happens. This,
Maybe we answer the Paula.
We gotta have
wait a second, let me finish. What, this
And I'm only asking because I think there's been some recommendations like creating an advisory board. So the vote happens and then
that's what we can decide
who do we
afterwards.
give that to?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Selectmen. Selectmen?
Paula Gravel said if the vote's no, cause I sent this to just the main members, if we vote to stay in the divorce and to move forward, then we go forward and see what we can do to keep educating the public to say, oh, it's gonna be expensive. If we don't go forward, then we have to call Paula and she pulls us out of the divorce, puts us in the reconciling,
To do
stack.
counseling.
And yeah, really. And we move forward as that. But I think I would really hate to see this ball dropped.
Does
as
the
far
issue,
as-
does the issue die when she puts it into and if we
Yeah,
ever decide
we
to
go
do
back
anything,
and
we'll
change
start
the
again?
Do we take a vote to dissolve as a committee?
She didn't say that. She just says we move forward. It's the town that's voting. We would just.
Yeah.
Well, in effect,
You
the
could-
town,
you guys
the
could
town,
dissolves
in
us.
effect,
guys
the
could
town
affirm it.
dissolves you
Dissolved it,
if
right.
they vote to stop.
Withdraw.
We're gonna
If
cut
the
it to
vote, if the
25,000.
vote is no,
Yeah, we are
then
so
that
efficient.
effectively dissolves
There's
the
12 of us,
committee.
it's about
Right.
$2,500 each.
Because the town, in their first, in agreeing to the thing, in agreeing to the first vote, formed the committee. Their vote, if their vote is no to continuing,
It's done.
then it
Yeah.
dissolves the committee.
We just get you over here on the right side.
Been
Jeez.
Okay.
Party at Joe's house.
I was gonna say, we will need like a potluck or something afterwards.
Barbecue.
Do you wanna take a stab at setting a date
For
The potluck?
for the final meeting? Exactly.
For the follow-up meeting?
Well, when's the vote?
Well, the vote will be on the
Ninth.
9th.
Ninth.
I think the last day of school is the 12th this year.
18th, I think now.
Okay, so we get a little bit.
Snow
Oh,
days
snow
and
days.
3 closed days.
So somewhere between the
Didn't
9th
pass
and
the
the
bill
18th.
up on that.
What's the last day of school?
June 18th.
I thought it was the 18th, but did you just say the 19th?
No, 18th.
Okay, good. 'cause
What
I
about
used
the
to-
11th?
10th or the 11th?
Of June?
That's a
Yeah.
Thursday evening?
Thursday?
What is 18th?
June 11th.
It's open on my calendar.
I noticed that you haven't called me. Call Jack. Maybe he can do.
The 11th, works for me. 6:30?
8 in the morning.
Is this space open? Do we need to check that?
I was just checking now.
What time do you have for your wedding? I hope so.
6:30
Dinner,
again.
right?
We have dinner every night.
That's good. That's why you didn't call me.
No, it was actually poker last night.
We good?
Taking a while to load.
But you were on texting and emailing
That's because you haven't updated the equipment yet.
at poker.
I throw my hands in.
I don't know what the
Hasn't been approved yet.
But then,
Yeah, that's right.
Hasn't been approved yet by the town.
I might have to get back to you guys.
Would that be at 6 o'clock again?
We made it to April.
Yeah, 6:30?
6:30.
What day's the town meeting? Third?
Third.
And then June 9th is election day.
Okay, what day did you want?
11th.
The
Yeah,
11th.
the 11th is clear.
All right,
I can know
Sorry.
the
Thank you.
meeting date. What is
Thank
the
you.
June 13th?
your third,
The town meeting?
6 o'clock.
So just another opportunity for another.
On
Separate, separate. Okay.
Canadian dollar.
Not really a date.
Right, it's
Euro
just
is
municipal.
Will this make
I don't know if it would be on the warrant to be addressed.
It's up,
It would be public
Marshall,
comment at
it's
the
up
end
again a
of
little.
town meeting.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Euro.
Appreciate it.
What is it?